Great. Welcome. My name is Hulen. I'm the co-founder of SmartRank, and I want to start off this morning with two questions. One, who thinks that the hiring process needs improvement? Raise your hand. Okay. The second question is, why on earth, after all these years, are we still using resumes and job descriptions after 25, 50, even 100 years? We're going to dive into that, and we're going to start with the root problem, which really comes down to this dirty little secret in recruiting, which is the fact that recruiters don't know exactly what the hiring managers are looking for in the roles that they're hiring for. And frankly, the applicants don't really know either. It starts with the job description, right? And job descriptions are vague and ambiguous. They have language in them like familiarity with, knowledge of, experience in, but these terms are not defined. And because they're not defined, they're extremely subjective. There's a wide spectrum for what they mean. There's an intake meeting, and in those intake meetings, they're going to ask questions like, what do you need to have? What are your nice to have? What are your knockouts? And is there anything else I need to know about this role? That's still hitting the surface level, the tip of the iceberg. And then applicants are going to come into the process, and they're going to look at these vague job descriptions, and they're going to interpret whatever they want those things to mean when they apply. And ultimately, you have a whole bunch of unqualified applicants that everybody's not happy with, including the applicants themselves. So what's the result of this? Well, it creates an inefficient, ineffective, biased, and expensive hiring and recruiting and screening process. So recruiters, what they'll do is they'll go through each and every one of these applicants in an applicant tracking system one by one by one by one, painstakingly, tediously going through each one of them, opening up a resume and comparing the keywords to a job description. And what are they doing? They're looking at words that are the same. So if they see, oh, in the job description we need proficiency in Excel, oh, we have proficiency in Excel on the resume, we must have a match here. No, you have words that are the same. That's about as much matching as is what's happening right now. In addition, words and names and resumes are two of the biggest sources of unconscious bias. So companies that are trying to make any type of meaningful change in diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DE&I, are going to struggle greatly to be able to do that when they're still having that much unconscious bias. In addition, this is extremely expensive. When you're ramping a recruiting team up at $80,000 to $120,000 per recruiter, and then you have to ramp them back down when you freeze hiring or you're going to slow hiring, that's very expensive. In addition, you have another option. You can go out and you can get an external recruiter. And if you've worked with those, you know those are 20 to 30% of the first year's salary. Also an expensive option. So what do we do? Well, the good news is there is a better option. There's a smarter option. It's called SmartRank. SmartRank completely automates the screening process. And we stack rank and filter those job applicants without having to use a resume at all. So let's take a look at how it works. It starts with a mobile-first applicant experience where applicants will come in and they're answering highly specific job vacancy and hiring manager questions. These are very specific. And then what we're able to do is stack rank, literally stack rank, and filter these job applicants to their specific qualifications. So it's saving everybody a tremendous amount of time. And the data that you're getting on these applicants is 100 times more detailed than you can ever get from a resume, because they're questions that are highly specific to that role that the hiring manager came up with. In addition to that, we're also helping out with communication. So communication between recruiters and hiring managers is always a struggle. So we make it easy for the recruiters to bulk action and send out requesting to see if they want to interview them. And then hiring managers can go in and like, love, or dislike these applicants very quickly and easily. We're also helping out with the interview feedback. So hiring managers can go in and they can simply put in a score, they can put in some comments, they can select whether they want to move forward, hit save, and then they're done. And then we can aggregate all of that feedback together for all of the different interviewers and give them a binary yes or no, whether they want to move forward, statistical numbers as far as percentages overall, and percentages for each and every one of the questions. What I just showed you is maybe about 10% of what our application can do today. All these other issues that you see up here, these are big problems in talent acquisition that are not being addressed. They're on talent acquisition's list year after year after year. We're solving for all of these, not in a small kind of way, but in a major way. We just don't have time, unfortunately, to dive into all these today. So from a performance standpoint, what you're going to see is that our company has been extremely successful. We went to market officially in late summer of 2022. So we've only been selling this for about 6 months. We are revenue generating right now. And our clients are absolutely loving this. Every single client that's joined is still with us, and they're saying comments like this. I just got this one last week where they're saying things like, Keith, we love your application. We just made our first hire, and trying to find this person would have been like trying to find a needle in a haystack. Now there's a bunch of other metrics that I have up here. I can tell you we have 13,000 applications that have come through, and that's true. I can tell you that 80% of the people that are hired in SmartRank are ranked in the top 10. That's also true. But there's one data point in particular I want to point out, and that's that we have 104,000 detailed answers for every one of these applicants. Now, why is that important? It's important because it's very valuable data for data analytics purposes for our clients. It's extremely valuable for us as a company and our investors, because this allows for us to move into a dual-sided market in the coming years. From a competition standpoint, there's traditional applicant tracking systems. These systems foundationally have not changed in 25 years. They don't screen applicants, and they are universally disliked by everybody that has to work with them. The applicants, the recruiters, and hiring managers don't want to be anywhere around them. There's also other tools out there like AI resume screening tools. These are tools that will use AI bots to scrape resumes. But again, what are they doing? They're just looking for the same keywords that we talked about earlier. So they can screen and scrape these resumes faster than a human, but they cannot do it any more effectively. Why? Because they can't look at something that says proficiency in Python on a resume and tell you exactly what that person meant when they wrote that. In addition, AI can be notoriously biased. And so what you end up seeing is state and federal regulations now coming in that are really hindering their ability to move forward in the market. From an annual addressable market, it's huge. Anybody that's hiring is struggling with hiring, right? I've dealt with it for 20 years as a hiring manager. Everybody that's dealing with is struggling. There's over 170,000 companies that are over 100 employees. All of those are potential customers for us. And when you look at the market itself, it's an $8.5 billion market when you add all those up. The serviceable obtainable market is over $1.1 billion. Just the applicant tracking system market in and of itself is $2.5 billion today, set to go to $3.2 billion in the coming years. If we get just 2% of that, we're a $50 million company. From a revenue model, it's very simple. If you're familiar with SaaS recurring revenue models, that's what we are. It's a quarterly subscription, and those subscriptions range anywhere between $300 and $17,500 per month, depending on the size of the team. You can see our annualized growth projections. We anticipate being at $50 million in the next 4 years. From a growth plan perspective, we have a dual-sided channel here. Direct sales channel, where we're going after mid-market companies between 200 and 2,000 employees. We're going to focus on those for the next couple years while bringing on some enterprise clients, and then really focus on the enterprise in 2025. In addition, during that time, we're going to be increasing our integrations and strategic partnerships with other companies within the talent acquisition ecosystem. So these are HRIS systems, these are other ATS systems, CRMs, interviewing platforms. There's a whole bunch of other companies that we can partner with. From a capital raise standpoint, we've already raised $1 million to date, and we are currently raising $1.5 million right now. The use of that capital is primarily going to go towards sales and marketing. We're ready to really hit this market and go after it, with the hopes that we'll be able to raise a Series A in 18 months. Our team is extremely strong. Everybody up here is handpicked, and 95% of these people are people we've already worked with. From an advisory standpoint, 3 of these advisors that you see up there are 3 of the top 5 advisors in the space. They're the top thought leaders, subject matter experts, and influencers in talent acquisition. So in summary, we all know that hiring is a problem, but now we know what some of the root causes are for that. We also know that SmartRank can solve for those root causes, not just the surface level symptoms. The market potential is absolutely massive because everybody that's hiring is struggling to hire, and the growth opportunity for us is huge. So the last question I'll leave you with is, why on earth would you not invest in SmartRank? Thank you.
Thank you, SmartRank. We'll go ahead and give the judges a couple minutes to gather their thoughts, and you can begin questioning whenever you're ready.
Tell me a little bit about your background and how you came to this idea.
I've been a hiring manager for 20 years. And I've always known since the very beginning that there was a tremendous amount of dysfunction in this space. So after my last company, I was the CEO of the last company I was at, I decided I'm going to start my own thing and I'm going to fix this problem once and for all. And then what I decided to do was really investigate what the problems were from the talent acquisition side. And we found some themes and consistencies there, and we just got to the root causes for those.
Are you developing in-house or external?
You mean?
How many of those people, if there were, I know 4 or 5 employees, but how many of them, I think there were 8 or so, are they all employees?
Yeah, we have 6 full-time employees and then 2 of those are part-time.
Okay, thank you. Good presentation.
Thank you.
So you mentioned all your employees are handpicked, right?
Yes.
Have you used your own system, hire anyone for your own business?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So we're a small startup, and at this stage, primarily, most of that type of hiring is through friends and family, through people that you know, people that you've worked with. That's just kind of generally what we do. So we haven't even had to use our platform yet to be able to go out to some of these others. Because again, the companies we're really focused on, they've got at least 100 employees. We're still somewhat far from that.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Question here. Can you describe how you made your first couple of sales? Seems like a very crowded market. I'm just trying to figure out how did you get those sales made?
Yeah, so I guess the short answer is we had a beta program. So we started with an alpha program where we wanted to make sure that we were doing our due diligence and our clients were really seeing the value and that we were working out any type of bugs. We moved those to beta clients, and then those beta clients, at some point I just said, are you guys ready to move to a paid client? And every single one of them moved over. So that was initially how we got our first paid clients, but we've since moved from that and we're now bringing on non-beta clients. But generally, when they see what we're doing, this is completely unique. This does not exist. There's not a single company out there that's doing it like this. So when they see it, they immediately understand the value because this has been a problem for everybody for at least my entire career, which is over 20 years.
My question for you is, how do you get hiring managers to know to ask the right questions?
Ooh.
It's the training of the hiring managers.
I love that because we've all been trained the wrong way.
Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah,
but
we're
we
asking
have.
the right questions.
Well, because we're used to dealing with the tip of the iceberg. That's as far as we like to go. So this really isn't very hard. We do have to train our clients because it's retraining their brain about the right questions. What we start with is the job description, and we just take the things that are on there and say, you said that you want somebody that's proficient in Ruby on Rails. What does that mean? How would you determine if somebody is or isn't? So this isn't like rocket science. It's just kind of reframing and getting to some deeper level questions. But when the hiring managers first see it, it takes them about 2 minutes, and then as soon as they're like, I see what you're doing, okay, and then they love it. And then we actually have to pull them back a little bit, or otherwise they'll do like 25 questions.
Question here. First off, you really speak to pain of people who have to hire, so I love your presentation. Couple questions. So looking at like your revenue scale up, your first year you had about 7 customers, it looks like, so about 4,200 a customer, and then you're ramping up from there.
Yeah.
So how are you projecting your growth from there versus like what you're earning in your revenue?
Yep. So the first few clients got the first few client discounts, right? And so they got some really good deals. And most of those are not even in our target market that we're really going after. We just converted over our first target market client that is 1,200 employee, $400 million organization, 100-year-old company. And they came over and they are fitting that kind of revenue projections that we have. So we have a extremely big and long Google spreadsheet that's got all of our projections out, but our projections are significantly higher than our average deal size are for these first few clients.
Got it. And then second question, as a participant in this pitch competition, what are you looking to gain if you go to finals and if you say you win it?
Investors.
And what would you do?
And customers. So, it's really hard to break into different types of angel groups and different types of VCs that are out there unless you know somebody. So I'm hoping that we'll get exposure so we can raise that capital that we really need because we know that we're fitting a really bad problem right now. We're fitting it in a very unique way. We just need to be able to really get out there in bulk. I need to hire more salespeople. I need to hire SDRs and marketing people because I'm kind of doing most of that right now.
And you're using SmartRank for that?
For,
For hiring?
oh, we will do that when we go out to hire the rest of these groups once we get that capital.
Quick question. So with regard to your key performance metrics, what would you say sets you apart from other companies, and how are you able to show that?
Well, I think, as I was mentioning, those 104,000 detailed answers to questions. We don't even have enough time to go through what you can do with that data, but it is unbelievably powerful. Every other applicant tracking system that's out there, the ones that have been around for 25 years or 5 or 10 years, they do not have that level of data. As our clients say all the time, they're a resume repository. You put your resume in, and that's the data that you have. So some of these clients have 50, 100,000 people in their applicant tracking systems, and they can't mine those databases. They can't do anything with it. They can scrape the resumes and look for a word on there, but they cannot truly mine that database. So imagine how frustrating that is when you have to hire a new role, and you look and you say, well, don't we have a bunch of applicants that have already shown interest in our company? And they say, yeah, we have 100,000 people. Well, surely the person's in that list. But you can't mine it because you don't have data. So we have hundreds and hundreds of data points on each application that actually comes through the process. And that data is extremely valuable. I would even say that even companies like LinkedIn and Indeed don't have some of that type of data. And so as we move into a dual-sided market, that becomes really valuable because in a few years, we can then make very, very precise matches for the applicant side too. So the applicants come in and say, only show me things that I'm a 95% match for, that's all I want to see. As opposed to, let me just throw my resume out there and see if the ATS gods are going to give me an interview.
Your presentation, my question is, you talk about the size of the companies that you're currently marketing towards, larger companies, things like that. But is there an industry and or a skill level that this really plays into? I mean,
Yeah.
straight out of college, I don't know the data